Hello, my name is Representative Pam Powers Hanley, and I represent LD9 in Tucson in the Arizona House. Today is February 28, 2022. Today's video is about housing. I decided this year that I was going to focus on housing and access to health care. So today's video is about the 8 bills that I proposed related to housing, particularly affordable housing and how to prevent homelessness. So I broke up my housing bills into 2 main chunks. One chunk being ending preemption of local ordinances, and the other one being keeping a roof over people's heads. So firstly, on the preemption angle, I found out that there are lots of preemption laws that were passed in the legislature before I ever got there that hamstring innovation at the local level. My bill, 2193, is one of those bills that ends preemption. This bill is focusing on repeal of SB 1487. This has been called the worst preemption bill in the country. This is the one that eliminated Tucson's gun buyback program, although we here in Tucson like that program, right? So what happens under 1487 is any legislator can see a local ordinance and say that is unconstitutional and have the Attorney General investigate it. And if the Attorney General finds that the local ordinance is more restrictive than the Arizona law, the local ordinance is gone. So 1487 is a horrible bill. Another one that I have is HB 2446. This is repeal of the preemption on inclusionary zoning. Inclusionary zoning is something the Tucson City Council used to talk about a lot. This is a situation where you have a development and the City Council says via zoning that a certain percentage of that development has to be affordable or low income. Well, the reason the City of Tucson isn't talking about that anymore was that the state preempted inclusionary zoning. So 2446 would get rid of that preemption. There's also preemption bills or repeal of preemption bills that some of my colleagues have proposed. For example, repeal of the preemption on rent control. Also, Representative Butler, along with Senator Wendy Rogers and Representative Blackman, all 3 of them have proposed repeal of the deregulation of short-term rentals. Short-term rentals have been very bad for many towns in the state of Arizona, particularly cities like Sedona. There are so many short-term rentals in Sedona that it's really difficult for people who live there to actually rent or buy homes because the market is so tight because of the vacation rentals. So we need to get rid of that deregulation, and we need to be able to regulate those short-term rentals on the local level. The other part of my bills are aimed at transparency in leasing and keeping people in their houses. For example, you may remember in 2021, I proposed my truth in renting bill. That bill got all the way through the House, but died in the Senate. Oh well. This year it didn't even get a hearing. So this year my truth in renting bill is HB 2794. This looks at transparency in leasing. What I found being a renter up here in Phoenix is that the leases have lots and lots of fees and hidden things in them. I found out that there are multiple services that I had to pay for that I didn't want or need. And so what Truth in Renting says is that if there are services on there that are non-essential and you don't want them, you shouldn't have to pay for them. The bill also says that if you've paid most of your rent, they can't evict you. Now you can pay like 80% of your rent and you can still be evicted. And so what that does is it churns the market. You know, when people are evicted, corporations make money because they get fees from all those new people coming in. So truth in renting is a really good thing. Another bill that I have proposed is, it's also related to leases and truth in renting in a way, but it's a separate bill, is HB 2792. What I have also noticed in signing all these 40-page leases over the last 5 years is that there's usually a page about marijuana. And it says, even if your state has legal marijuana, you can't consume cannabis in your apartment. So 2792 says that anything that's legal in the state of Arizona can be used inside your apartment that is in Arizona. I also have a HB 2793. This one is about skyrocketing rents. I have heard so many people talk about their rent doubling. For example, there's a lot of corporate apartment buildings, obviously, in Phoenix and Tucson, and these things are constantly being bought and sold. I've had at least 3 of the apartment buildings that I've lived in that have been sold while I lived there or when I was about to move out. And so what happens is they get bought and sold by speculators. They double the rent. And sometimes they just slap on a little bit of paint and then they double the rent. I have heard the doubling the rent story far too many times. And so HB 2793 says that they can't raise the rent more than 10% in a year without major renovation. So if they come in and gut the place and completely redo it, you know, they can raise the rent more than that. But if they're just slapping on a little bit of paint and raising the rent because they think that's what the market will bear, that can't be done with 2793. I also have 2522. This is the Elderly Assistance Fund. This is one that I've been proposing for several years also. My bill didn't go anywhere, but there is a Republican bill that is very similar that is moving forward. So with 2522, what it says is that if you're a senior and you're a low-income senior and you are living in an area where it's been gentrified and property taxes have gone up and you can't afford them, you can apply to this Elderly Assistance Fund and they will pay your property taxes so you can keep in your family home. So lastly, the last bill that I have related to housing is HB 2195. This would fully fund the Housing Trust Fund. Yeah, we haven't been doing that. I don't know why. It used to be automatically funded until Russell Pierce got a hold of the budget many years ago, and then it's had sketchy funding. So with the preemption, with the predatory landlords, with the landlord-tenant laws that favor landlords over tenants, and then with, you know, sketchy funding on the Housing Trust Fund over the last 10 years, we created the problem that we're in. I don't think that we're going to be able to build our way to affordable housing using tax credits for developers because the legislature doesn't have the will or the guts or the commitment to put that much money into it. So I think we have to look at ending preemption and letting the cities innovate and also keeping people housed. We should be on the side of the people and the tenants and the homeowners rather than on the side of mortgage companies and the landlords.